Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mayz Pod. I'm your host, Maisie Greenman, and I started living my dream life at 20 years old, and I'm here to share what I've picked up along the way to help you all chase your goals and live out your dreams as well. So before we address the Julia in the room, we just had the virtual event that I've been hyping up over the past couple of weeks on here, and let me tell you, the energy, the vibes, all of it was immaculate. I love hosting these events, but Mayz Digital is actually going under construction for a couple of weeks. Our next event is going to be different. The networking, the education, all of it. And I've been working on this for months. So you're not going to want to miss my next event. It'll be bigger and badder than ever. And I am introducing one of my most asked for products. So, female entrepreneurs, what are you waiting for? I have the link down below in the show notes. Go get on the wait list for my next event. And once you do that, make sure to follow all of the instructions in the confirmation email so you never, ever, ever miss the date and time for this event. Okay, anyways, if you're watching on YouTube, you've already seen that I have Miss Julia here with me, and she works at my favorite place ever, which is Hotworks, if you haven't picked up on that yet from all my previous episodes. But anyways, she's here to give you some inspiration. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I'm honored to be here. This is exciting. I'm Julia. Like you said, I work at Hotworks. I've always been into fitness. I love it. I grew up doing soccer, and in high school I did track and cross country, even golf, soccer, and overall I've kind of been involved in CrossFit, and that's kind of like my main jam, I guess you could say. Um, but so right now I'm not going to school. I got my EMT at UVU, which is emergency medical technician. And then I went to Dixie State back when it was Dixie State. It's Utah Tech now.
Yeah, you can't say that now.
Can't say that's my bad. But yeah, then I came back.
Knocked over our setup.
Oh, you're good. So after that, I came back, and I went and served a mission for my church for 18 months. I was in what's called the Illinois Historic Sites, or like Nauvoo, middle of nowhere in Illinois, basically. And I also went to Vancouver, Washington State to serve there for that. I came back, and I've done my personal trainer certification and started working at Hotworks, and I just recently started coaching at a different gym further up north called The Box, and it's more of like a CrossFit gym type thing, functional fitness. And I love it. I love fitness. I love just like the motivation that it brings and the health benefits of it all. So
yeah, you're the perfect person to bring on to this episode, which everyone will find out what it's about in a minute. Typically on each episode, I do 3 segments. So first I say something that I'm grateful for and why, and what I'm looking forward to, and then something that I would tell younger me. So I'm going to have you take the mic for segments today, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
So first off, what's one thing you're grateful for and why?
Oh, there's so much to be grateful for. I think right now, specifically, is just for opportunities. I think there's so many opportunities around us, like all of the time. Right?
Yeah.
But it's just like we gotta like wake up and see them. We gotta be able to put ourselves in a position to take them. And I'm just grateful for the opportunities that have come up in my life recently, I guess.
Yeah, wake up and see them. I think I've said that the past couple of weeks. I feel like I repeat myself a lot with the grateful for part, but that's one of them that I've said so many times, because once you start opening your eyes and seeing opportunities, they just start flooding you.
Right?
Like they just barrel rush you.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
Yep. Now, what's something that you're looking forward to? It could be this week, it could be this month, whenever.
So I'm looking to start an online coaching business soon. I'm still very much in the works, but I'm super excited about that. I love helping other people with fitness. It's something that everyone struggles with,
Yeah.
And just like motivation to do that. And so I'm hoping that this online fitness coaching will kind of expand people's ability to be into fitness, I guess.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting. I didn't know you were doing that. So now we got to talk about that after.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self, no matter how random you think it might be?
There's so many things. And honestly, I wouldn't change much about how I grew up just because it's made me who I am now. But I think a big one is just to not take things so seriously. like often we're so close-minded, right? We have this tunnel vision, but overall it's like I got there's in I don't know a week, 2 weeks, a year, it's not gonna matter. Like this situation is not gonna be the end of my life. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
stop taking everything so seriously and be able to look past it and not let it just chain you down, right?
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. So, this is our final episode of the Growth Mini Series. So, we've talked about so many different things over the past 6 weeks, from redefining growth to gaining confidence. And one thing we haven't really touched on is overcoming limiting beliefs that may be holding us back from starting or progressing our growth journey. So, one of the reasons I brought Julia on today is because of the videos that she makes to promote HotWorks and bring more people in. And this is a topic that you've talked about a lot. And you're just great at giving that tough love that we all need to just suck it up and get back into gear. So I'm going to link some of these videos in the show notes. Go watch them. They're good, worth your time. I always post them on my story too. So if you see them, that's why. And if you do live in the Spanish Fork area, you definitely should go test out HotWorks. She agrees.
It's the best. It's the
It
best.
literally is. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll do a class with you. It's actually so much more fun with friends. I just brought one of my friends in, and yeah. Okay. Anyways, moral of the story, Julia was the perfect person to bring on the pod for this episode. So let's get into it. So, for those who might not be familiar, how would you define a limiting belief in simple terms?
Yeah. So a limiting belief is just something that creates a doubt in your mind and makes you unable to do something that you want to do, just because you don't feel good enough feel like you're good enough to do it,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Yeah, and what are some of the most common limiting beliefs you see people struggling with?
Yeah, so you often hear like I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, smart enough, whatever it may be. But I think one that is actually huge that people don't often realize is when they play the victim, right? Like the world is against me. Why are these things happening to me? This type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, I think you know all of these limiting beliefs are very real and hard to battle. But like that's just one that I think I've seen a lot with people around me. And honestly, I don't think all limiting beliefs are bad, and I'll explain that a little bit later.
Okay,
But,
perfect. Yeah. Okay, sorry for the change in lighting. My phone just decided to crash and run out of storage, and her phone is a lot better than mine. The lighting looks way better on there. So,
happens.
anyways, how can someone start to identify their own limiting beliefs? I feel like after a while, like once you tell yourself something so much times, your subconscious just kind of plays it on autopilot and you don't even realize that you're saying those things to yourself.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny that you use the word subconscious. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Yeah, so I think just overall thinking is so underused. Like, uh, I remember having a friend who he's still my friend, don't worry. He just like overthink or not overthinks, but just thinks so deeply. And I was always so impressed because he just like thinks about what makes things the way they are, which is important. It's kind of fun to think about those things. And I mean, can we talk about overthinking for a minute?
Yeah.
So actually, life is so simple, right? when we look at it, it's actually, it doesn't have to be all these complicated things. But overthinking is so dangerous, right? It can be, at least. So there has to be some type of middle ground. So there's a difference between subconsciously thinking and consciously thinking. And most of the time, we're subconsciously thinking, right? I think there's between around 12,000 to 8,000, 80,000 or something like that. Crazy number of thoughts we get in a day. And I know for a dang straight fact, we are not or consciously thinking about everything we are thinking about, right?
Especially those intrusive thoughts.
Exactly, right? It's just like come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we're not fully aware every time we get, a thought. So, I mean, I think depending on what we're thinking, for sure, depending on, our subconscious is the overthinker, right? Like we're on Instagram scrolling and you see someone that you wish you were more like, and you're like, dang, I wish I was like them. Bam! what's it called? Limiting belief.
Yep.
Couldn't think of the word. There's a limiting belief right there, right?
Unlimiting.
Unlimiting. No. And so I think like when we consciously think, that's when we are, still battling with our limiting beliefs because they're still with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that means we are with our limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
We can throw a little bit more logic, a little bit more realistic thinking at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit easier to battle. But this takes a lot of intention, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I say this because like a lot of us don't like going deep with ourselves. I hate opening up to myself, right? You'd think it'd be easy because we're with ourselves 24/7, right?
Exactly.
But it's hard, I think. And so I think just taking some time to check in with ourselves. It doesn't have to be anything super huge, like this big enlightenment or super spiritual experience, even though sometimes it might be. But just taking 10 minutes to check in with yourself and um, make sure you're doing okay and that what's going on in your brain, I guess.
Exactly. And I mean, you mentioned social media. Are there any other specific situations or triggers that you can think of that often bring these beliefs up to the surface?
Yeah. So with triggers, I feel like finding out what triggers these feelings and these thoughts is completely up to you to find, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because no one is doing exactly what you're doing in your life. Like everyone's so different. We all have different schedules, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, with social media, that's a huge thing, right? Social media is a huge trigger for limiting beliefs and just like doubts and all these things. So stop scrolling, right? I'm just kidding. Number
Yeah.
one, no, but I think just going throughout the day and checking in with yourself, and I think just asking, like what am I doing right before I get these thoughts? What am I doing right after I get these thoughts? Like what is um, like am I overly anxious during the day? Am I angry at something? Most of them come at some point in the day, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
pinpointing when that happens. And after that's kind of happens, I think asking well, instead of asking why, okay, we got to get the why question out of here. I hate that question because it doesn't fix anything, right? We just kind of go in the cycle of excuses or blame or whatever it is. Like it doesn't actually fix anything. So something to ask instead could be something like, what can I do right now to make this better? Or am I trying to protect myself from something? What is it? Things like that just, make it more of a solution based thought instead of why is this happening to me? Kind of playing that victim card again.
No, I actually like that. I never really thought of that before. I I mean, there's situations where I just get like these feelings. I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And but now I've got to change that because it's just so
Right.
natural to be like, why? But
Yeah, as
you bring up,
humans, we
yeah,
just we want to ask why. Like kids, right? You're in the car. Why are we like where are we going? Why are we doing this?
yeah, exactly.
They
No,
just
so
why?
that's something that I've got to change on my end too. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
you brought that up. And then, how do limiting beliefs affect our lives both personally and professionally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it affects everything, right? It affects like our capacity to love other people, which I think is the most important thing, the thing that makes us happiest, honestly. It affects our ability to work effectively, productively in our school or
Mm-hmm.
jobs, whatever it might be. Um, and honestly, I think it even affects the way we look, right? I mean, you can kind of tell, say, like in a gym, right? You really pay attention to someone who walks in, even if they're not acting shy or insecure, like you can sometimes tell if they're insecure or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or just kind of having thoughts of doubt or, things like that. So I think like moral of the story is you're not going to feel comfortable doing anything that you want to feel comfortable doing if you're letting these limiting beliefs attack your brain like that.
Exactly. It's like you've been to a gym before or
I guess so.
something.
maybe
No,
a few
I'm
times.
glad that you brought that up though, because I feel like it affects your body language. Like if you're like, I suck at this, and you're like closing yourself off. I talked about
For
this
sure.
last week. Everyone who watched last week remembers me just like closing myself
Yeah.
off and like
Right.
trying to do that example. Um, but yeah, the way that you're talking to yourself inside of your head is really going to affect your body language and how you're performing.
Yeah.
And do you have a personal story or example of how a limiting belief either held you or someone you know back?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm very grateful that I haven't really had very many struggles with limiting beliefs. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that. But of course, right, as a human, I'm
Yeah.
prone to get them. So, um, I kind of immediately go back to when I was running cross country for high school, and it was, during those races you're running and it's like I'm dying, I hit everything, I hurt, I am slowing down, like it's hard. But then I see the finish line, I'm like, bam, right? I'm like, I had the most energy that I ever had somehow. Like I can sprint towards it and I'm fine. Like, what the heck? So after realizing that that happens, right? I'm laying in bed that night. I'm like, dang, I should have pushed myself so much harder. I could have, right? I proved that to myself as I saw the finish line and I was able
Mm-hmm.
to sprint towards it. Um, which is true. I could have done better, right? Um, but I let every limiting belief in the moment get to me, which prohibited my chance to, you know, do any better, I guess. Which is disappointing, right? It really is. Um, so the switch in my head after having that experience like multiple times, this every race it would kind of be the same thing. Um, and I realized like, man, I just am way too serious before my races. Like I just was like, yeah, like nobody talk to me. I'm in my zone. I'm trying to, I'm just angry. I just want to get it out. But like that's stupid. Maybe that works for some people, like I love getting in my zone and that's a real thing for sure. But I think we take things way too serious in life. And I thought I forgot to have fun. I forgot I was doing that for fun. Um, and it was interesting because after that kind of switch happened, it changed everything. I could smile during races. I could motivate people around me, even if I was competing against them, right? Yeah. And it was just so much more fun and rewarding to have that company and that energy, the challenge with everything else around me going on, and with the people around me. And so before you go ahead and start thinking like, oh, it's a sport, like of course, it's an easy fix, I guess. No, I feel like as a society we're way too serious. Mm-hmm. Like there's joy in every single thing in our lives, and we just have to find it. And if you choose to find it, then you'll know exactly what I mean. And it involves a lot of not being afraid to make fun of ourselves a little bit. Like we're all human. We got to take things lightheartedly when it's appropriate, of course. But I think that's just a huge point of like getting those beliefs out, right? It's just like, no, I mean, you just have to have fun, and we're on this earth to experience joy, and obviously the pain, right? It helps us experience the joy, but like overall, we just need to look past it.
That's perfect. And once we identify those limiting beliefs, how do we begin to challenge it? I know you said saying things like, what can I change or what can I make different?
Yeah.
But do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I think looking at our habits, right? Like if someone were to come with me and say like I just can't get out of my head, I'm so overwhelmed with all these thoughts, whatever, like I think I would ask them like, how are you living through that, right? Like are you dreading going to work or to the gym? Like what are your thoughts and like feelings towards that thing? Even if you liked it before, like what are your thoughts in the moment of doing that? And I think like identifying that, right? Just pinpointing, because everything in our life, I kind of look at life with like sections, I guess.
Yeah.
Like school and work and all these other things, social life, all these other things, whatever. And like just kind of touching base with all of them. Like I said, checking in with yourself is super important. I try to do that once a week. There's so much stimulation in this world, right? That's why we're so addicted to scrolling on Instagram or, doing other things that kind of put our brain at a higher, like, I like this, right? It wants a dopamine or whatever. But like just taking a minute to not be stimulated, right? And just having like a journal or something and just kind of writing out your thoughts, touching base, like I said, with all of those different departments of our life and kind of experiencing the feelings that we have towards them. And I think then, the questions kind of come in, and it's okay even if you just identify them and don't do anything about it yet, right? Yeah. I am a big believer of just going through the motions, because sometimes we just need to a habit, right? Nothing's really fun starting out, but
Yeah.
I think just like, if you know it's good, keep doing it. And, if you've done it for a little while and you still, check in with yourself, you ask yourself these questions about this department or whatever, nothing changes, then yeah, switch it up, right? Try to find a different approach to go to the gym or find a, better job if that's what it takes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that.
Yeah, one thing that I really push or try to do is when I have like a negative thought or something, like take it back, like give myself a do-over. I talked about that a couple weeks ago, where you just in your head be like, okay, that didn't come out right, let's have a do-over, something like that. Do you have any techniques like that for reframing negative thoughts into positive ones?
Yeah, so I think often when I was serving a mission for my church, like I mentioned, you're out there, often you're knocking on doors, right?
Door knocking.
Love it, it's awesome. Not. And it was so easy to complain, right? It's just so easy to, man, it's cold, it's raining, and it's hot, vice versa. And what I would often do, we have companions on the mission, and this can relate to anything in life, right? You have a friend, you have a family member that, you might be with often or not, and just text them a lot, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And like mostly the people around you will have, as we're around people, we kind of form to what people we're around, I guess, right?
Yeah, you just kind of morph into one person.
Exactly. And so I think like talking to that person that you trust and that you're around a lot or text a lot, like, and just saying like, hey, I'm really trying to be more positive, like, can you help me with this? And what we do while I was on my mission is like every time that would happen, we'd kind of be like, hey, like, no, like,
that was
say it
bad.
in a different way. Like it could be the exact same thing, but just more of a positive outcome, I guess. Yeah,
that makes sense.
So just having someone to keep you accountable to do that is a really good way to kind of force yourself to change the
accountability partners. I'm learning that's like the one thing, because I feel like I've done a lot on my own, but now I'm getting to the point where it's like I need that extra person to be like,
right,
get back into gear right now.
Come on.
Get your butt out of bed.
Into shape for sure.
But yeah, and how important is it to look for evidence that contradicts your limiting beliefs, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's, huge, right? Like I said, when we consciously think, we're with ourselves, we're with our beliefs, like you can honestly picture it like right in here. Mayz's my limiting belief. I'm just kidding. No, but like you gotta walk through it with logic. Finding the evidence is not hard, because I'm sure everyone's seen that quote where it's like 99% of the problems are made by us, and 1% of the problem or 1% of the thing is the actual problem.
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Really?
That's good.
It's like, yeah, we make up all of our problems, basically,
Mm-hmm.
So I think just like, checking in with yourself, having this conversation with your limiting belief, belief. Yeah, I said that right. and just being like, what is this actually doing, I guess? Like, how is this actually part of my life? Is it a part of my life? Am I like this? Like, no, like not really. Like in this situation, like kind of playing the devil's advocate with things, I think helps a lot with just finding the actual evidence, throwing logic at it, because I don't know.
Exactly, throw logic at it. I was at a mastermind on Saturday, and he talked about how Earth is just like a tiny speck, and then the United States is like an even tinier speck, and then our city is an even tinier speck, and then there's us, and we're like little tiny micro specks in the world. Like it's not that deep sometimes. So yeah, I like that. Just bring some logic to it. Remember, there's lots of things going on. It could be worse.
True.
And now moving on to building more of a supportive mindset, I guess. We talked about this a little bit, but how can we cultivate a mindset that just keeps supporting our goals and dreams, instead of getting past this little spot, getting past our limiting beliefs, and then just hitting another wall?
Yeah. So I feel like we've talked a lot about having check-ins, right? Mm-hmm. Having kind of a conversation. But that does literally nothing unless you actually apply it and do something about it. So with, making a supportive mindset to keep, this all of the limiting beliefs out in like the moments that usually they come in, I think like having a to-do list or like a list of your goals, right? And making them attainable, the SMART goals.
I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it's I can't even remember the first one. Simple.
Specific.
That's the one. Specific, measurable, attainable, timely, and yes, that's the one. That's how you spell SMART.
I was thinking there was an E. Were you thinking there was an E? Okay.
I'm like, what is that?
I'm like, what does the E stand for?
No, but I have a app on my phone. It's called Things, and it's just like this to-do list, and it's super nice. But even if you have like a calendar, just a paper that you have your things on for each of your goals, and for your dreams specifically, making them a reality. I've thought a lot about that recently. Just like, I mean, you can have these dreams, but where do you start? That's kind of everyone's problem with your dreams. Like, where do I even start? How do I even make this form, but if you kind of layer them out, I guess, and I guess make them more attainable, then I think that kind of helps our subconscious be like, yeah, like this is possible, like, oh my gosh, like I can do this, and so I think that just overall, and then of course working towards them, doing those things on the list to have that success every time. I think that makes it pretty supportive, right? Like, you're like, okay, yeah, like these things are possible for me to do, me specifically.
Take it one step at a time. And that, I'm glad you bring that up. I've talked about that a little bit before too. I used to literally write my to-do list and my goals, everything down on sticky notes. I've transitioned because having 42,000 sticky notes is not productive. So I've fixed it. But it's so simple. You just write it down somewhere where you remember, look back at it, check it off. There you go.
Bam.
It's attainable.
Yeah.
You can live your dreams.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you've already touched on this a little bit too, but how important is it to have a support system when you're working on overcoming these beliefs?
Yeah, huge. I think like having a support system can kind of be hard to get, low key. I mean, I think most of the time, as people, I've been in this situation before too, like, I don't want to ask, like, it's kind of embarrassing, like, I think as a society, I've said that a lot today, as a society, but, like, I think it's just, not cool to want to improve, I guess. Like, I kind of get that vibe from a lot of people. Like, it's just kind of like, like, kind of blow it off.
Like, why do that when I can lay in bed all day?
Yeah, exactly. And with your friends, too, it's like, I don't know, getting good friends that want to help you with your goals is very important in general, but like kind of building up the courage to ask people to like genuinely help you with your goals is hard. So I think like if you feel that way with your family or your friends right now, I mean, I'm not saying cut them off, right?
Get out,
no. But like look for other sources. There's so many things that we take for granted, like Facebook groups. Freaking Facebook groups, they're awesome. They're so,
oh my goodness, that's how I get so many leads for my business. It's crazy.
It's amazing. And there's so many good people out there. Of course there's scammers. Don't fall for that.
Yeah.
But like like there's
get rich quick.
Yeah, don't click on those. Okay. But you know what I mean? Like Facebook groups, there's communities. If you even like go to a business, or your work, and maybe just suggest to your manager or someone like, hey, can we start like a little like goal setting group on the weekday or like the, I don't know, Mondays after work, whatever, something like that,
Yeah.
Like take the initiative to not only help you, but other people, and you can all be supportive together. Just, there's so many options. So
these are so like out of the box. I never would have thought like, go to a Facebook group and find people. I mean, that's how I find leads and stuff for my business sometimes.
Right.
But I see it all the time in a couple of groups where it's like girl groups and stuff, and they just come with advice. Literally, if you're struggling, go find a Facebook group that matches what you're looking for. Like, I think one of them that I'm in is like Mommy's Mimosas and like Friends of Salt Lake City, and I see a ton of people asking for advice in there all the time, and I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And you can reach anybody all over the world, so
For sure.
that's crazy. And do you think you would have been able to, I don't know, I guess change the positivity part of your mission, like the knocking on doors and struggling through it? Do you think you would have changed your mindset on that without your companions?
Honestly, no. I mean, it just depends, you know. I think I take myself as a pretty self-motivated person. I, of course, lack discipline in a lot of ways. I am very far from perfect. And so I try already to like, you know, be like, no, this is good. I'm excited about these things, but genuinely, like, I have companions that have just changed my life because of just like the simple things that, you know, they would help me see, you know, in a positive way. And I love kind of turning that around and being like, oh, I can be that for someone too, you know. And it all starts with, you know, starting your own little process of getting rid of your limiting beliefs and then being able to, you know, help other people do that too. So yeah, definitely got a lot of help from my companions and friends and family too, you know, in other situations in my life for sure that have just been hard, and just like, no, like, you can do it. Like, you know, like, look at it this way, and it changes everything. You look at things from different views, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's another point that I forgot to say I was going to, and I forgot. I feel like when you start, like, you get over that initial, like, belief, that initial of, oh, I can't make this happen. You get past that, and you're to the point where you're making it happen. I feel like the right support system and the right people, like, naturally kind of come to you. Like, you find them pretty easy after you get past that.
Sure.
That
those
big,
opportunities.
big hard thing.
Sorry.
yes, those opportunities that we were talking about. All right. Well, you've answered all these other questions that I have. So what is one final piece of advice that you would give our listeners who want to break free from their limiting beliefs? Maybe they're so close, but they need to hear that one bit of tough love, that one thing.
Yeah. Well, on my most recent video that I made for Hot Works, I was talking about this guy's hoodie that I saw, and it says, nobody cares, work harder. That's it. I was like, crap, what does it say?
I was going to say do better. It was work harder.
Work harder. And, you know, remember when I said, you know, I don't think all limiting beliefs are bad, or having limiting beliefs are bad? Because I think, like, a lot of the time all the time it's healthy and normal to have them, right? Because we're humans and all that, but taking them and using them as an opportunity to improve ourselves and, you know, be more mindful about what we think about, and just find our weak points and make them stronger. And that involves, you know, not making those excuses, because it's kind of, you know, a very contradictory thing, having these limited beliefs and then saying, like, don't make excuses, but, you know, using them together, I guess, which is like, I mean, I don't know, I think it's super important to find the weak points in our lives. And, okay, I'm going to change this because I'm sick of the person I'm looking at in the mirror, or I'm just sick of feeling like this during the day, feeling uncomfortable and insecure, or whatever it may be. Like, just freaking fix it, man. Go out and do it. Stop making those excuses, because, you know, it's not going to help anybody except, you know, the person that you don't want to be, I guess.
Yeah, the person you don't want to be. I like that. Yeah. So I usually end my episodes with a quote. So this week I have a quote from Louise Hay, and it says, if you accept a limiting belief, then it becomes a truth for you. So don't let your limiting beliefs become a truth. Let it become a challenge. This kind of goes along with what you just said. If you believe you can't do something because of XYZ, you will make that a truth, and the opportunity will just go to waste. You will continue to keep coming up with those excuses until it turns into reality. So learn to recognize those beliefs like we talked about, and when you're telling yourself something that is going to hold you back, make it a challenge. Be like, okay, yeah, I think that, but I'm going to do better. Or just, I don't know, I'm very competitive. So if I hear something, I'm like, no, I can do better. Something like that. Just make it a challenge for yourself. It'll make it more fun anyways. Well, thanks, Julia, for coming on today. I know that I got a lot of insight out of this myself, and I'm feeling a lot more inspired. And I know all of our listeners are going to be feeling this way too. I'll put your socials and the Hotworks page in the show notes so that everyone can see the content you're making. And I always get put back into gear after I watch one of these videos. I love seeing them. So again, thanks for coming on the pod. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You're the perfect person for this episode. So as always, make sure to follow me on Instagram at mayz.g09 and Mayz Greenman on Facebook. And if you're a female business owner and you want to get on the wait list for my next event, go use the link in the show notes right now. This next one is going to be crazy. It's going to be different than any of them that I've ever done before. We are rebranding. Oops, I said it. We are rebranding. We are doing it all. But don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Mayz Pod on YouTube, especially if you want me to keep making the video pod and bringing guests on. This is so fun to do in person. But remember, I'm going to stop making the video pod if I don't see those engagements. But anyways, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, anything, email me at mayzpod@gmail.com. I don't know my email anymore. Use the Q&A section on Spotify or comment on YouTube. And if you're feeling extra nice, it would help me out if you left a 5-star review. Remember, success doesn't come without hard work. I hope you guys all have the most productive week. You're all doing great, and I wish you the best. See you next episode.